I know that for a lot of people who have been on social media, you know, 3-day long festivals have been really popular in the news. And I think that that is kind of a good place to start with what I was wanting to talk about. So obviously Burning Man, no.
That's longer than 3 days.
Is it? Or is it like
yeah.
a week?
It's like a full
Yeah,
week.
it's like a full on week. But
I'm clearly not a festival person at all.
That's why we like
with
you,
this.
Yeah.
Are they still doing Burning Man, or did they like wait for the rain to stop and everybody left?
They waited.
It ended and then the rain hit basically, and then they were all stuck there for an extra 4 or 5 days.
Wow.
So the segue from Burning Man into what I want to talk about might not seem clear at first, okay? But bear with me, follow me on this journey. So this morning, a report came out from Project Veritas that they continue to dig into like how James O'Keefe had been abusing funds from his donors. And this little tidbit,
he's the former CEO, right?
Yeah, the former CEO who was ousted by the board of directors for abusing donor funds for personal use. And they had all sorts of things like, private plane trips, fucking water bottles to a hotel. But
he took a helicopter to Maine?
Yeah, like his
from where?
From New York.
That's a long helicopter trip, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they also had to land somewhere else, and then he took like a black limo, which cost an extra like $30,000 for the rest of the trip.
Very, very good use of funds to have those really long Uber rides. But my favorite part of the breakdown of the money that he was taking was that he spent $2,500, which isn't that much, right, on DJ equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite part of it is that the report explicitly stated that he had dreamed about doing a DJ set at Coachella.
I forgot about this.
And I think that I would really want to know, and maybe we can come up with some ideas on what exactly his DJ set would include.
Oh, Jesus.
Or his DJ name.
Or his DJ name. Yeah. Oh, God.
Oh, man.
I mean, the obvious one that just comes off the top of my head is like the Spinster, right? Like that's what his, or like Rebel DJ. And I think that he, it's interesting to me that like conservative fucking hucksters like James O'Keefe still want so badly to do like what they perceive to be like cool liberal shit, right? Yeah. Like fucking conservative people don't go to Coachella to like hang out with all the groups but like he wants to do a DJ set to potentially impress, all these women that he was spending donor funds on trying to woo.
That is like dating... I will say that is like the number one, Gabe, what you just mentioned I feel like is the number one issue. Well, I guess not number one, but an issue that conservatives run into over and over again, where like literally everybody who is cool hates them. They don't have anyone who is cool who is into what they do, and you kind of like they got like what like Kid Rock,
Rob Schneider.
Yeah, what's the comedian from How High or whatever? The guy who does the terrible stand-up. What's his fucking name? Jim something. Anyway,
Brewer.
Jim Brewer. That's it. Yeah.
He sucks.
He fucking sucks. But I don't know. There's part of me that feels like I can't imagine how it would feel if like your entire party, like every time you hold a rally and you play a song by literally anybody, that artist calls you and is like, don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. Never do that again. Like, I know that these people are kind of soulless, but like at a certain point you have to imagine that they're like, oh man, Zach De La Rocha told me I was an asshole.
Springsteen hates
me. Yeah, I mean, there was that. What's that dude's name who's running for the Republican nomination that like just kind of came out of nowhere?
Ramaswamy
or whatever.
Yeah.
What was it?
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yes. Yeah. He got like a cease and desist from Eminem. And
because he was rapping. He was rapping Lose Yourself. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah,
oh my God.
They like, it's got to be really lonely. And I just like, I want to like imagine what he thinks that experience would be like in his head. Cause I don't know if listeners know this, but James O'Keefe put on a really like over the top production of Oklahoma, where he was the main. I've never seen Oklahoma. It looks fucking boring. And he was the primary character in that. And like watching clips of that production, like I could just imagine that he tried really hard to be part of like the theater kid group in high school, and they were like, this dude's a fucking dweeb, like no way, you're not hanging out with us. So he was like, I'm gonna get him back someday. And then
that's
like,
how Hitler got started famously, right?
Yeah. Bad at art.
And I think
cool
that
people didn't like him.
Ultimately what is this whole thing is like, so many incels and so many of the right-wing fucking chud patrols are people who are ultimately very unhappy with how unpopular they were in high school. And this is all a gigantic ploy to get to do a fucking DJ set at Coachella.
Yeah. Honestly, okay, this is not a very well thought through take, so feel free to push back on me here. But I feel like if James O'Keefe went to Coachella and did a DJ set that actually like appealed to incels to the point where they went to it, like, do you think that just getting all of those guys out of their parents' basement and off the internet for a couple of days would like be enough to fundamentally shift some shit in their head? I feel like so much of that super toxic incel shit is born from like isolation and being completely separated from everybody else. I feel like if you were to get out, as the kids say, touch grass, and like be around some people, even if they were also shitbags, it might maybe do something to combat the isolation element of that. But that, again, that is a completely half-baked take, and I'm sure there's something I'm not thinking about that's really bad. I mean, obviously, like a rally for incels is probably a bad idea in some way or another.
I mean, it worked for juggalos, and this isn't. It's not to make a comparison.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's not to make.
It's not a good comparison because juggalos fuck.
That's true. They do. They get down with the bad ninjas, but like they have created, like, the Gathering is like a whole fucking thing that has created its own culture. So maybe they just, I'm afraid to even suggest this, but maybe they don't need to like infiltrate spaces like Coachella. Maybe they need to like create no, because that's just like the GOP convention or
maybe. How about
Democrats
if
have
James
this too?
O'Keefe? What if James O'Keefe were to get a DJ set at the Gathering?
Ooh.
I feel like, because then I feel like you get all these incel guys. There's like the juggalettes running around, and everybody's seen those Vice articles. You know, you got these incel guys who are all of a sudden having like some kind of a fucking sexual revolution at the same time together, listening to the musical stylings of James O'Keefe.
And
again, a half-baked take, but who's to say? Certainly not me. I
think that we can throw James O'Keefe to the juggalos and see what becomes of the situation. Maybe, I mean, I like worst case / best case scenario is they, make sure that he doesn't walk out of the festival.
His $25,000 or $2,500 investment is covered in Faygo. Okay, so here's let me give you guys a dude, I can't believe I'm blanking on this word. A question that's for like whatever. Anyway,
rhetorical.
Yes, a rhetorical question. Thank you. God damn it. Man, I'm going downhill fast, guys.
We are on tonight.
It's really going bad. Okay, if you had to go though, just to spectate, to see either James O'Keefe's DJ set or Cory Booker's DJ set, which one are you choosing?
James O'Keefe's, I think.
100%. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't think like obviously the incels are not cool and there's major problems with them.
I'm
Like-
clipping that out.
But here the thing is, Democrats aren't cool either. Like, it's different, obviously. They're, considered the norm and what is normal for human beings. But if you've ever been to a state Democrat convention, and I've covered a number of them, they kind of suck. Most of them suck.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't want to see any of them DJ. I would
No.
blow my brains out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, think about like the people who are the poster children for like cool Democrats, and it's like Ellen. Like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
Like, cool, that's the best you could do.
I have friends who are Democrats who are like very correct when they say like that politics is like prom for nerds, or like, they all dress up a certain way and they get to act a certain way, and then like they get to, you can feel really popular if you're like the head of, some Democrats of Yuba County or something. Like, it's just it's all, I don't know, it just feels a little high schooly.
Mhm.
Nothing against you Democrats listeners.
Yeah. None of them are coming out in full Millennium Force, where they should be like openly advocating for like, like Bernie Sanders could definitely get on the train of just being like, millennials love to eat ass. And they like, my platform is ass eating for everyone. Done.
Socialists are the ones that have.
He should give it a shot, honestly.
There are some cool socialists, at least. A lot of them are fucking nerds too, but there's some cool ones.
Well, they're cool like for about 3 hours after they get sworn into office, and then they like
Right.
are not cool anymore.
Then they're Democrats.
Then they're Democrats.
It's a slippery slope. Well, let's start the show.
Voices, the things they said, voices, some from those dead, all the voices heard. Voices, things we say, voices, they're in your head, all the voices heard.
Why, hello, everyone. You have Kempa.
And you have Skylar.
And you have Gabe.
And there is no Shannon today.
Oh.
Shannon is a little under the weather, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Send those thoughts and prayrs. It's proven to be an effective method of getting
Absolutely.
things done. Send those over Shannon's way.
Hopefully we have Shannon back next week. Or did she take next week off? I don't know. Soon.
Any addition, extra animal antibiotics that you might have lying around, you can send them her way.
Flintstone vitamins.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I did.
Natural oils.
I cooked some stuff up in the tub and took it over. So she should be back by next week at the latest, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, she's probably feeling great right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, get well soon, Shannon. Before we begin, little house cleaning here. Folks, we like what we do. If you like what we do, keep us going. Keep these lights on. Keep the things running. Go down to patreon.com/voicesrivercity for as little as $5 a month. You can become a patron. We do have some Patreon only content. And this month, it will be Thursday, September 14th. We will be having a Voices get together after work. We're not telling anyone publicly, patrons only. As we said, friend of the show, who's going to beat them up?
Oh, someone's going to get beat up?
Corey.
Yeah.
Corey was going to come in. He's going to come flying in and give him like a vertical hot dog
suplex
slam or something. Yeah.
Yeah, he will end you if you show up and you're not a patron.
He will fucking destroy your shit.
You don't even want to know.
He will rock your hot dog.
I've seen it. I've seen him do it when someone wasn't invited somewhere.
I would take this very seriously.
Yeah. So become a patron to find out where that is. And, beyond that, do we have anything else to report right now?
Yeah, actually, I have an announcement to make. So you may remember as a listener that a few months back, we were speaking about the upcoming possible Trump indictments. And I made a promise that I don't actually, in retrospect, think that anybody was expecting me to keep. But if you're a listener of the show, you will remember that I did say the words, if Trump is indicted for anything, I will get a tattoo of Robert Mueller on my body. So I just, and I need, this is important to me because I need our listeners to know that I am a man of my word. This is something, I guess, for the YouTube folks.
Yeah, this will be a screen cap as well. There he is, top right thigh. It is Mueller time.
Oh God, it's so good. It's so good.
It says "Okay, Boomer" directly under him too.
Yeah, it's a perfect tattoo. So anyway, so
Amazing.
Not only am I a man of my word, but there's also I would like to take this opportunity to point out been several conversations about tattoos that Dave has said that he would get, and so I've gone through with mine. The gauntlet has been thrown down. It's in your court, Dave.
All right. I only remember one tattoo conversation, and I don't recall agreeing to it, but I think the idea was Trump's hog on my hog.
Mm-hmm. That is what I remember.
Okay.
That's a killer first tattoo.
What was
a first tattoo? Yeah.
What would have been the scenario in which you had to go through with it? Was there like a if this happened, then I'll do it?
That might have been the same conversation actually as Robert Mueller. So now I'm really under the gun here.
Yeah, right. Gotta pay. You gotta pay the pony.
Wow. Yeah, that's a soft maybe.
Dude, if James O'Keefe actually plays Coachella, you got to get it.
Okay.
Yep. Damn.
That's so funny. Honestly, Skylar texted that tattoo to the group, the finished tattoo, and I forgot about that whole conversation months ago, and I was just looking at it confused, like, Skylar got a tattoo of Robert Mueller. Oh God, that's good.
I mean, as someone who is very heavily tattooed, there is a certain point in your tattoo journey where you like just stop caring.
You just stop giving
like you
shit.
don't at all.
Yeah,
like
totally.
name it. Like I actually just made an appointment to get the other side of my head tattooed, and like I don't know what I'm getting, but I threw a couple of options out there for people, and one of my ideas is a praying mantis fighting a frog.
It's great.
That's sick as hell.
I think it's good. Why the fuck not? Man.
No reason not to. Wow, that's amazing. I have deep respect for both of you. It's an Everest I've yet to climb. But let's get started a little bit on this show. We've got a few topics to discuss today. Kind of a lot of follow-up stuff. But to begin, why don't we discuss what happened in City Hall today? Let's talk first about the Sacramento City Hall, the police military equipment report. Skylar, can you tell us kind of what that was about?
I mean, kind of. I mean, like, so did you read the item? It's like an ordinance to rescind the ordinance to, implement this thing. And it's like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, they're not like I don't think there's any money being spent. The point, like, I don't know. I was like trying to follow it at city council and kind of got to the point where I was like, I think the point of this entire conversation and the reason why they're doing it is like, so dumbasses like me who can't read agendas are just like, well, I can't follow this fucking shit, which I think is a strategy and a tactic. Two, I was kind of like looking into being like, okay, I need to get this really squared away, and then kind of hit this thing with myself where I was like, I don't think it fucking matters. It's not like this is a police item that's going in front of council. Like, we know what's going to happen. It doesn't who fucking cares? Like this die is cast before the game even starts, you know?
Right. Best case scenario, 6-3 vote against us. Right.
Right.
So was there a vote? Was this a votable item?
Yeah. And it was 6-3.
Okay. Did I see that there was like some issue with like they like weren't reporting some of the stuff that they actually had in their inventory?
Yes. So they like seriously underreported on a bunch of their inventory, and it was shit like really badly. Like it would be like, oh, we have 54 of these gas canisters and they have 900. Like significant underreporting in like several categories. It was real bad. And this is also following, of course, the 3:00 budget and audit meeting where they are discussing the 350 rape kits that Sac PD has not tested and did not report to the state as they are legally required to do. So it just kind of all in all, I will say this. This is a positive thought that I had, because I have to admit to being somewhat of a pessimist when matters regarding police funding come before Sacramento City Council at this point. But I will say, and I feel like I'm doing this a lot lately, and believe me, it bothers me just as much as it bothers the rest of you. But like, to Daryl Steinberg's credit, so Daryl actually in public to the police chief read out like a whole bunch of like, okay, so you guys said you had 50 of these rifles, you have 500. Here you said that, you know, you had 80 laser swords and you actually had 850, you know, like he went through this whole thing. And at one point he said, what was it? It was like, why do we keep saying yes to you? I think was the quote. You know, he's not up there like shaming Kathy's not being aggressive, and he's not saying anything that's like that could be perceived as being super out of line from the perspective of somebody in PD. But I was sitting there watching him do it, and I could not help but kind of think like, man, this comment that he's making right now, he would never have made this comment 2 years ago. And there's a couple of reasons why that might be. I mean, the last 2 years ago, we weren't discussing like hundreds of pieces of equipment not being accounted for and like all of this stuff, you know?
Because by the way, those years ago, they didn't have to itemize anything.
Yeah. At one point, Kathy Lester said something to the effect of like, well, look, we didn't used to have to keep track of this stuff, so now we don't know how. It's like, we
can't count that high. What are you kidding?
I mean, there's probably a better way that you could have said that to your boss, but you know.
I mean, as someone who's worked in retail, anyone who's worked in retail, like if you've done an inventory check, if you had more than like 3% of items that were like not accounted for, you would be in serious shit.
You're in trouble.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this exchange was how Daryl was very, you know, trying to kind of maintain his democratic credibility by openly declaring that he has no idea what any of these things are. He's just like, I don't know what like these bullets are. Like, I don't like, what does grain mean? I mean, you guys know. Like, I don't have any idea how firearms work. So I wouldn't deny you, you know, your access to the blunderbuss if you
That's
need
some good Democrat credibility. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I want to make it illegal.
Yes, yeah. But his like, I thought their response, you know, Lester and who else was up there with him?
Captain Norm.
That's right. Yeah. We're like, well, we can get the SWAT director out here if you want us to explain.
He like runs
in, you know, like what these things are. But we can assure you that they have not been used for crowd disbursement.
No.
And I thought that made me feel really good, like right in the previews.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine they keep the things that they've used in crowd disbursement. So, or at least the canisters and stuff.
Yeah. And Kathy's like, you know, explanation of how they went about kind of figure, you know, like, well, this is why some of these things weren't accounted for. Like they weren't where we put them. Like we thought they were in the broom closet, and then
Honey,
we looked and they were gone.
Where are my keys?
Like, no big
You know
deal.
what's another thing that cops do that if you translate it to like regular workers, it feels ridiculous to hear them say it, is when they complain about the body cams and like, well, we're just on camera all the time when we're at work. And it's like, that's like everybody who works retail, everybody who works in a restaurant, like literally like 80% of working people are on camera the entire time they're at work. Like, and if they get fucked up, they'll get in trouble. Like, you know, like if they fuck up, there's consequences because they're on camera.
If they kill someone, there's consequences, right?
If they shoot someone's dog, there's going to be a conversation about it.
Now, you guys have it special, wherein that's not the case. It's so fun, though. Like, it really is. I do feel like the wool is lifting over people's eyes now that, like, we've taken these next steps towards transparency, where it's like, all our friends at the Police Oversight Commission, as well as some of our allies on city council, have worked in tandem to say, we need these things itemized. We need to see what the hell's going on under the hood. We can't just keep giving you more and more money and like not knowing what is this going to, right? And it finally feels like the conversation's clicking a little bit. Where as you said, what did the mayor say to Chief Luster?
Oh, man, let me look up hang on, give me 2 seconds. I have the quote.
Okay. Where even the mayor.
Why do we say yes to everything you ask for?
It's so good.
Dude, Daryl Steinberg saying that to the police chief. I mean, that's a moment. I feel like that's a significant moment for like the way that this city thinks about police funding, I believe. I hope. That's
what I'm saying. That's what, like, the conversation has changed. And not just that, it's the zeitgeist has changed. What is considered acceptable and unacceptable from our police force, and what is expected of them on the dais, not just from the Police Oversight Committee, but now from the mayor. Like, it's surprising. And I do think this is very much thanks to folks like Keon on the Police Commission, Oversight Commission, and, you know, Council Member Valenzuela really leading the way. But, you know, Vang and Maple are asking some good questions too these days, right? Like, so, like, these things should have you thinking, your general person who's looking forward to, like, you know, future elections, like, the tough on crime, that red meat justice that, like, a lot of our boomer parents were somewhat susceptible to in like the 90s and beyond. Like, I don't think that flies anymore. I think a lot of them too, a lot of the boomers are like, no, this doesn't feel good. Like police should have some oversight. Because they're still thinking about like a neighborhood cop, like walking a beat in the suburbs, you know, who like knows all the people who live there and like has a gun that has never been fired, you know, and like
it's still Andy Griffith in their head.
Right, exactly. And now when confronted with the fact, I mean, like, and look, I mean, obviously I am a bit of an ideologue, but like, I understand, you know, that like I understand how things are, you know, but like, what I don't understand, like some of the things they want in here are like thousands of like rifle rounds. Now, I am obviously not, and I probably have a super skewed idea of like how much police equipment actually get. Well, I mean, we all do because it's completely opaque. But like I cannot imagine a why for that. You know, whatever. Like if they want to have a bunch of 9mm or 45 caliber for their fucking handguns, whatever, they all carry them. But like who are you shooting that many rifle rounds at? Like, like rifle, like that's a whole different thing. Like, what are you preparing for? Who are you planning to shoot those rounds into? Like, why would you think that you need that? Or why would you think that you would need that? Like, that is the part to me that is completely like when it's the stuff that you can't even get into their head of like, because, you know, like I don't agree with it, but I understand why they're up there being like, oh, we need tear gas canisters. We need the Rook, you know, we need, like, I can understand how they're justifying it. But with like rifle, like thousands of rounds of rifle ammunition and shit like that. I can't even get there with it. I'm like, what could you possibly need this for?
And Norm's response to like Daryl's questions was, well, we want to make sure that we have access to the tools to handle the job that we have been, assigned to complete. And like, just like what you're saying, Skylar, like that, the immediate follow-up question should be, which job are you preparing for?
Right.
Like you asking for 1,000 rounds of 308, like what are you planning on, like a zombie deer apocalypse coming through the town? Like who the fuck do you need to shoot 150 yards away with like pinpoint accuracy?
What 1,000 people do you need to shoot from 150 yards away with pinpoint accuracy? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it almost like they just want to do it for target practice. Like,
I'm sure that's some of it. So here's the thing that like and this is probably like my most tinfoil hatty kind of thing with this, but like it's hard for me not to make the connection that at the same time that like the police are requesting equipment to essentially turn themselves into a military unit, the city in its left hand seems to be more or less giving up on trying to address homelessness effectively. They seem to be giving up, at least to some degree. And I think there's some reasons set forward by the council members we mentioned earlier to think that there is some hope and there's some work that's being done. But by city management, it seems like they kind of just don't think that this is a solvable problem, so they're not going to deal with it. And that is kind of the way that they seem like they're addressing or not addressing homelessness and the housing issue and like rent hikes and rent protections and all of this stuff. They just kind of don't seem to care for it. And so to me, and I think a lot of people have had this conversation where you're like, well, if that's how you're going to do it, then like what is, because the bottom can't hold on that, right? Like we know it's a fact that for every person they get out of homelessness, 3 more become homeless. But like, so what is the end game, right? Like that's not sustainable. It can't possibly be sustained. Like it's obviously not sustainable, just mathematically. And then you realize that the city is spending all of their money on rifle rounds. And then some fucking sinister shit starts to happen in my brain, right? Where I'm like, what are they preparing for? What do they think is coming? What are they actually doing to address a problem that they see coming? And I can't say, I'm not going to sit here and say that I know for sure that these things are related, but it's hard to feel like they aren't to some degree, because there isn't a plan for any of those things there isn't a solid plan for any of those things I just named, but there is a plan if people do a First Amendment action. They are ready for people in the streets.
I think that's pretty reflective of like the whole national scenario as well. Like you have a country that has disinvested from everything: healthcare, education, social safety net programs, any type of like job training, security, anything like that. But pumps $800 billion plus every year into the military, and it's like at a point you start to reflect on the fact that like our military is not just, it's never been used to just keep our borders safe, so to speak, or even be sent internationally to handle skirmishes. Eventually you have to wonder if it's going to be turned domestically. And it's like, well, if you have a destitute population that has nothing to lose and the powers that be aren't concerned about addressing those problems, but they are concerned in making sure that their place in that hierarchy is, solidified, how are they going to do it?
I mean, it feels like we're living in the prequel of Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, where, we're in the early stages of everything, falling apart under this sort of falling empire oligarchy, and the military will just be turned in to protect the elite. And then there will be a rise of private security that basically just protects the corporations. And you have to decide or not if you want to work for one of those corporations at one of their corporation camps and, you know, get your food from their company store to be saved from the you know, roving masses that just are in absolute destitution.
Yeah,
My girlfriend did not. My girlfriend told me I was not allowed to read that book.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like dystopian novels often can get boring because our world is more frequently worse. And like sometimes I feel like, whereas before authors would kind of like come up with ideas, now they're like it's that meme of like one person looking over, you know, Mr. Bean looking over the shoulder of someone in class and being like, oh, actually now it's the authors that are just watching this and they're like, oh shit, like it's already can't write anything worse. Like,
I think she kind of nailed this one. I think that's really prescient. And like, it's also fun because it's in California and you're like, hey, I know that highway that they're walking on.
I remember that road.
Yeah, so good news all around there. Thanks, cops. Can we talk about the latest with the Nazis calling into Sacramento City Council?
Yeah, this is getting bad.
Yeah.
So there was another round of this. And
it's every week.
Yeah, and I've seen the last 2 weeks that there's been an organized action from far right people. These are what's called the Goyim Defense League. That they're straight up Nazis. I mean, if you go to their, you know, website or their channels and watch like their major show, like it's like Hitler in musical montages and stuff. They're not hiding a goddamn thing.
Yeah, they're like Heiling. They're like, yeah, it's like full on Nazi shit.
It's like these people deserve to, you know, not be walking this earth. And now they are, you know, for whatever reason, targeting Sacramento City Council of all cities. And they've been doing this for the past few months, I think, since last spring. And it started with that moron Ryan Massano coming in from where's he live?
I don't know.
Definitely not here.
No, he's in like Orangeville.
No, I thought it was further away than that. I thought it was like Vallejo or something.
Vallejo,
Yeah,
that's where he lives.
That's right.
Yeah. And then he got linked up with one of the Nazis from GDL, this guy Scotty, who lives a little further out there. I can look up the city he lives in, but like basically it all started with them. And now these GDL people are organizing people by 10 or 11 people to call in and order during public comment of things not on the agenda and just like spouting anti-Semitic bullshit. You know, we have at least 2 Jewish council member and mayor up on the dais. They are, or possibly 3. I don't know. And then, you know, they're saying some like racist shit too, misogynist shit. And it seems to be getting ugly.
Yeah, it makes it kind of, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I don't even know what to say about it because like the whole point is to disrupt and they are, you know. I don't know, man. I will say I'm trying not to give anyone any fucking shitbags any credit, but it sucks to watch public comment. I mean, it does like that. I mean, I will say that shit gets to me, especially when they're calling in from a remote location. You know, it's fucking hard to listen to that shit. It's fucking super ugly. It's super evil, and it's super sad. Like it just makes you feel so sad for humanity, really, that like these fucks, this is how people are. You know, I don't know. I guess that's a sweet summer child thing to say.
No, I agree. It's weird. It just brings a weight down. Everything feels gross when these people are around and when they're talking. And I used to look forward to the public comment. And so it appears that the mayor, you know, he dubbed our city clerk the what is her term? What her name is?
The decorum officer.
Decorum officer. And I believe, you know, she's allowed to enforce decorum within city hall, city council. And so basically she's the one who cuts the Nazis off mid-sentence once they start spewing their shit. But usually it takes the urging of him or the vice mayor or whoever is holding the gavel at the time to tell her that And she does, and that it ends that commenter. But it seems like it's reaching a point where they're trying to figure out what comes next, because I think they're all tired. They're tired of hearing this shit. Because these people are calling in from all over the country. Like, what do you do?
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of, I think to Skylar's point and to both of your points about like the feeling, like the weightiness of like having to subject anyone to these people's comments. And I've sat and kind of thought about this for a while in terms of like why specifically they have targeted Sacramento as a community. But I also do think that they have, because we have, to our credit, a very effective, very well organized kind of like anti-fascist movement within the city.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that. And they see that as a direct threat to their ability to organize and make any kind of headway in this city. And they feel, because of a lot of the surrounding counties, like Placer, that they should have more power in Sacramento. Sacramento is like I could be wrong. I've heard this before. I haven't actually checked, like the most diverse city in the country, or one of the most diverse cities in the country, right? And they feel like they can, cause a lot of havoc by calling in and making their presence known. But they also know that when they come out, like in person, they get their shit rocked, and they get utterly embarrassed every time they do, and they just look like absolute fucking asshats. And they have to hide behind their phones. And I could be wrong, but I think Massano actually came to city council last week in person.
He still does sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. But he does it randomly because he knows that if he makes it consistent, he's going to get his shit rocked. And it's just like, well, I think it's hard not to give them some attention, because it's obviously a problem that's not going away. They're not being completely deterred. But I do still think that there's something to be said about the fact that they have to hide behind, over the phone public comment. But obviously, I think that one of the primary concerns in this situation is that the potential of city council requesting that over the phone public comment either be severely limited or altogether cut off.
So that's what they're discussing, right? That they're not going to
Well, I don't know how far along they are with that discussion, but it was mentioned as direction is something we should look into, seeing if. So I think that's something that they're asking the city attorney about, to see what the options are with that.
Yeah, how do we feel about that?
Bad. I mean,
yeah, bad.
It is tough, because like we've all been saying, like Gabe just said, it's really hard to sit here and listen to these guys do this every week, and there isn't really an effective way, or at least I can't think of one, to get them to stop. One thing that was mentioned by a caller, Mr. Boyd, called in afterwards and suggested that they set up a system in which there's a 30-second delay, so that the calls are like basically screened by someone else in the clerk's office, so that when they start jumping in, because what they do obviously is they come in and they pretend to be concerned citizens for about 10 seconds. And they start throwing the N-word around or whatever. So you would have it on a, like on a delayed, you'd have a 30-second delay with which you could cut them off. And then at least it's just somebody from the city clerk's office who has to listen to it, and not literally everybody in the room, including the minority groups who are being targeted. That, to me, I mean, again, this is one of those things where I feel like there's probably some logistics that I'm not thinking about. But right out the gate, when he was saying that, I was like, that's not the worst idea in the world. And that also does still allow for people who are like disabled, or, for one reason or another can't make it to chambers but want to comment. Then it still keeps those lanes open for those folks. So I don't know.
My concern with that is, they'll start using that to silence comments from lefties who like swear.
Yeah, I mean, that is certainly like a thing that could be a byproduct of that for sure.
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that any tool that gets used against like reactionaries is always going to be utilized against the left in probably more profound ways than it would against the right. You know, like they'll be able to use that as a further kind of bludgeoning tool to demand decorum and cut people off, and so I definitely see the risk in that.
Yeah, it's tough. Because I want people to have access. Honestly, it's nice making dinner and like being able to like just have my comment come up, you know, like it was a good thing to come of the pandemic that I hope doesn't get I hope the baby doesn't get thrown out with the bathwater.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, that's the same with a lot of this stuff, you know. I mean, so much of the so many oppressive laws only exist because there's like a fucking 1% tiny little group of absolute shitbags who need to be told not to do awful shit, you know, and then it like just fucking snowballs into a different thing. And that's kind of where a lot of this shit comes from, you know. It's just, man, what a bummer.
It's a bummer. Maybe they could like confirm your phone number or something. There's got to be something here.
Yeah, I mean, like, are there any actual rules in place about people who are calling in and like where they? I mean, I feel like
from anywhere. Yeah.
No,
yeah. I mean, you could easily just call in with a VPN. There's not really there's not a way that you could be traced, I don't think. But it does beg the question. I mean, the whole thing, right? I mean, these guys love to bring this shit up, but like, I don't know, there is an interesting conversation to be had around the First Amendment as it was written like 5,000 years ago versus where we find ourselves today. And I think that these kinds of incidents are kind of where those conversations begin, and it's scary, you know. Like I sit here and like do this show that's gotten me in a lot of fucking trouble, you know. I am, and the reason I got out of that trouble, a lot of it was because of the First Amendment, because of my right to say what I want to say. So it's not like don't respect that thing. It's not like it hasn't been there for me when I needed it, you know.
Yeah, thank you to anti-slap laws in California. Shout out to those, by the way. But you know, it's the fact that, again, I always bring up Germany. It's like Germany has a pretty strong, you know, pretty robust left, and it's illegal to be a Nazi, say you're a Nazi, and to, you know, convey Nazi, you know, imagery. I don't think it's impossible to do something like that. And I know there's a lot of Amendment 1 purists in this country. And I used to be one too, I think, you know, back in like, you know, grad school or whatever. But it's like, nah, we don't really need to like protect the Nazis in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go all history teacher here for a second, because I do think that there is, you know, the situation of any tool that's utilized to kind of put down reactionaries is always, again, utilized against the left, and I'm blanking on
especially within the context of this country.
Right, and I think that the right in response to something like that, like if we had a resurgence, and I'm like forgetting the actual bill or what it was that made it illegal at the time to be a member of the American Bund Party, which was like essentially an American Nazi party, but it also made it illegal to be a part of the Communist Party. And of course, like the people who were actually persecuted were the communists, and everyone else was, you know, left to their own vices. So I do think that if we had that, there would be an argument on the right that like, well, if you're going to make it so that people can actively engage in politics that you don't like, right, then like you also have to take these people into consideration. You know, it's just like COINTELPRO on the surface was used to fight against Black nationalism and the KKK, but like who
Right,
were they actually
right.
fighting against?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's, and again, I think that is within the context of this country. Like
Right.
other cultures have pulled this off, I think, a lot better than we probably could here.
I mean, the other difference, though, between modern day Germany and modern day America is that I think, and I haven't, it's been a long time since I've been over there, but my feeling, even back then, and I'm sure it is much more drastic of a comparison now, is that I think by and large, German people feel a lot more taken care of by their government than Americans do, and they don't have a poverty situation that is anything near where ours is. And I will beat this drum until I am dead that those conditions breed fucking ugliness. It breeds angry, ugly people who want to put this ugliness on others because they're fucking pissed. And when you get down to the root of it, for a lot of that, I mean, if it really is economic oppression, then they're right. I mean, they're right to be pissed. They're expressing it in awful ways and they're letting it do twisted shit in their brains. But like that to me is like that's something I feel like that Germany has done to combat it, and it seems to be working better, at least, than it is here, where we are like accelerating that shit at a fucking crazy rate, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have a stronger social safety net. Yeah. And
I mean, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, I agree. Like, as it's as people's material conditions worsen in our neoliberal oligarchic state, like, people are going to get mad, they're going to get scared, and they're going to look for answers, and they're going to look for someone to blame. And usually they end up down, one of two major paths, and that's why we start talking about socialism or barbarism, right? Do you start talking about like, wow, like, how do all these billionaires have all this money and blah, 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 blah? Or do you start, listening to that charismatic person who's telling you that it's the immigrants that are doing this, and like you got to do what he or she tells you to, and everything will get better then.
Yeah, I think that's what's so like frustrating about these moments in history is that to so many of us, it's like classic textbook incidents of these things. Like economic instability breeds reactionary politics, which breeds extremism, which then breeds demagoguery and looking to strongman leadership and anti-immigrant xenophobia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And for at least 23% of the population who hold a significant amount of political power, it is just completely over their heads, and they're able to just like, nope, no, it absolutely must be because of, Mexicans crossing the border, or it must be because of, the woke gender ideology, et cetera, et cetera.
It is like, that's, it's frustrating because it should be, these moments in our history should be unifying moments. And I think that's why it's frustrating. Like, this should be like, and again, this is really just addressing economic instability, and there are a million other factors that factor into the way that our society runs and our social issues. But I believe that economic instability is a major one, and things are like, you would think I think the reason that it's so frustrating, at least for me, is that there's like there are like 10,000 of us, like, as working people for every one person who has like $1 billion, like, it's so grossly separated that this should be an easy time for us to come together and be like, no, absolutely not. Like, you can't have $1 billion. Like, I'm a full-time worker, and like, if I get in a car accident right now, I will never financially recover, and you have $1 billion, like it should be this moment for all of us. And I think that was what was frustrating about like the Trump shit, right? Is these people are all like, all these, New York city types, you know, the New York elites are running this country and I'm sick of it. And it's like, but like you elected a New York elite. Like how are you how is it not obvious to you who to be mad at? Like, how are you this easily fucking misled? You know? I don't know.
I think that people are you know, there's a quote, I actually think it was Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys who said, real freedom scares you because it means responsibility. And I think that ultimately for a lot of people, when they're mad at these like economic instability, the potential of having to solve the problem means that they're responsible for the solution and they don't actually want to take that on. And so many people would rather give up their freedom to someone who says that they have the solution so that they can sit back and comfortably watch that solution take place, even if it doesn't work to their benefit. And I think that ultimately is why so many people voted for Trump, because, you know, it's easy to vote for someone who promises the world, even if they're part of the problem that you see, because they are also openly identifying the problem. Like, oh, well, it is these wealthy elites. And yes, I have been a part of it. And that's why I know them so well. And I can deconstruct this, you know, swampy cabal. And I'm the only one who can.
Trump also saw federal level politics for what they are, which is like it's professional wrestling, and he came in and treated it like that, and it fucking worked because he was right.
So we just got right back a huge circle to like rocking the hot dog.
Yeah, we sure did.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I've got nothing to add to that. You know, I back to, I guess, the point of like them using it, you know, whatever we decide on the left. I saw that, you know, when people were discussing what is to be done about these Nazis on our Zooms in City Hall, that Sac Walk Safe account was poking around on Twitter being like, well, you see, like, decorum. We should have had decorum from day one, right? And like, you know, her basically arguing and claiming that folks who come in with grievances of, you know, our white supremacy and patriarchy problems in this city are the same to her and in her eyes to the larger community as the Nazis who come in and spout their hateful racist rhetoric.
Oh, the brilliance of fucking horseshoe politics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotta love a neolib.
Do we? Do we? Do we?
No.
No.
Gents, I think we should call it. I think this is the app.
Let's do it.
This was, I think, maybe not the most informative app we've ever done on the show.
Possibly the most informal one we've done.
Yeah. Hey, y'all, like, while we're doing this, because we've just done one here, like, what do you like? Will you please tweet at us and kind of let us know, like, was kind of a looser format like this? Did that work for you, or should we stick to the news of the day and not pontificate? Like, I legitimately do want to hear from you, because we want to make this show like something that works the best for all of y'all. So tweet at us. I think we would love that.
I'm interested to hear that too. And like, full disclosure, like, we do a lot of prep and a lot of homework before most episodes, but we are swamped right now. You know, we're all working on some interesting things and like during the day. And yeah, this episode was just like, this was a tough one to pull together, but we had 3 topics that we just really wanted to kind of touch on. And
it does. I feel like it harkens back to the original spirit, Dave, of when I came on this show in the first place. Because when we started the show, it was because Dave and I would just meet up at the bar and like drink beer and talk about this shit, you know? And so we just kind of decided to do it with microphones, and it turned into what the podcast is today. But I don't know. I kind of enjoy this stuff, but I'm interested to hear people's takes on it for sure.
Yeah. it's been controlled chaos, I think, over the years, and more one than the other at varying times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, this was more chaotic. I hope it was fun. I
Yeah.
had fun. You guys
I
had fun.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Oh.
I'll tell you what you should do is you should go to patreon.com/Voices River City and vote with your dollars. That's what they always say to do, you know. So that is a method by which
And then
I feel like I'm getting us into some bad territory right now. So I'm just
It
gonna
has
you really-
$5 if you didn't like the episode and 25 if you did.
yeah. And then if you really, really didn't like it, then you can come to the patron only event and tell us to our face.
That's true.
Or you could smack Skylar right in that tattoo.
Thigh slapper.
All right, y'all. Well,
all right. I guess
have a
it's
lovely week,
Mueller time.
everyone. And it's Mueller time. Get better, Shannon.
Get better, Shannon.
Peace.
Bye.